Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome to a video looking at Sandman's abilities. We're also going to be looking at stuff from deep dive, so looking at, say, the champion's kind of rotation, things that are good about the champion, how it just kind of like great abilities, some interactions, some ideas. Yeah, we'll be covering these champions as they're released this month, but yeah, I actually really like them. It's been a really rare time where I would actually say like two characters coming into the game, Shocker and Sandman, where I just kind of think they're done really well. Some unique playing styles, something new, something fresh, something interesting, and as well, you know, these are two characters that a lot of the player base want to see, and more so for Sandman than Shocker, but you know what I mean. One thing that is really cool about Sandman is the build. You're building up the champion with these heavy proficiencies, which is going to be very important. It says here, every time the opponent is knocked down, his damage potential rises thanks to his heavy proficiency passives, increasing attack rating during heavy attacks, which is important as part of the rotation. If you've seen the deep dive, where at some points you're quite literally, as part of the rotation, getting the champion into a root situation, which is there, you are quite literally just doing heavy attacks. By having the unstoppable passive right there, it just does basically mean that you are able to just like pummel on that heavy proficiency which is there. And then with the champion being rooted in place, it is like just a free-for-all on just doing heavy attacks, and you're just heavy attacking the enemy to oblivion, so to speak. I'm just trying to find, like, there's a moment where you get to see the extent of damage you can rotate on it, because that's not a good idea, right? That's not a good idea, but it's not a good showcase of it. But it is definitely like a moment in time where you do get to do it. And it's up to you, like, how you rotate the champion, whether or not you rotate on an SP3, which is like, this is the SP3 animation right here. And when it kind of like goes down to the end point, which is there, you then can see that there's 28k there on a heavy attack. So that's one heavy attack, boom. Another heavy attack, 3k on a basic, comes down, boom, we're there, and then a burst, 34k right there, debuff burst. And we got as well off the SP3 a Fury passive, so you kind of work that in. Keep the champion heavier, get the champion rooted, do the heavy attack, physical vulnerability, boom, all adds up. You know, physical vulnerability is seen right there, which you can see on the screen, just below me right there. I got very much ahead of myself just because I'm really excited about this champion. It's really cool when a champion comes around and you're like, this is actually really cool. I really like the rotation. I like the heavy attack element to it. I also like brawler champions, ones that are very aggressive, and I feel Sandman is very much aggressive for build purposes. So debuff side of things, so it says strengths, weaknesses, strengths, you know, debuff count. Sandman's special ability, special attacks in a stable state can dump loads of debuffs on his opponents between petrify, decelerate, physical vulnerability, suppression. He can max out the impact of powerful masteries like Inequity. Really? I thought that one was nerfed a while ago. And despair. Okay, you know, cool. Triple immunity. He is immune to. That's weird. He's immune to poisons, but I get it. It's like, you know, I think it's perfectly logical. I would love to have seen something that kind of notes to his, and he's immune to shock, which makes sense. Something I'll have to read on because I don't know. Something where he is incinerate vulnerable. Especially if you play into, like, you know, firing up sand, it kind of turns stuff into glass, if I've got that right. In any case, moving on. Weaknesses. Being hit by a critical hit. Being struck by a critical hit removes Sandman's resistance ups. So, Corvus. And other champions that do that. Aggressive Purify. Aggressive Purify from skill champions keeps his debuff count low. So, anything skill based, it's going to, like, shrug off some effects. Second phase of Nick Fury, but then saying that would you want to use them against that? So it's your Crossbones, it's your Misty Knights, your Karnax, your so many other champions that shrug off the Mole Man, Kingpin, for example, tons, and countering Unstoppable makes Sandman unstable state. Much less threatening if he manages to trigger it. Could use the likes of, it depends really, because would you use Quicksilver against this? Maybe, don't know. Lots of champions that do slow. Any case, moving on. You might not want to use it. And yeah, like the kind of main thing is that the champion is immune to bleed and shock and poison effects, which is very nice. Sandman's personal debuffs can be inflicted through block and pause during special attacks to expire. Fantastic. There's of course some interesting similarities to other champions in game. The resistance up type meta, with resistance up with Sandman, it's all about building up to something, with the unstable kind of state with it. And you can look to comparisons within game because you've got the likes of Spider-Man 2099, which is when attacked you get an indefinite resistance up. You know, difference in Sandman. Sandman's all about you when you attack, you get resistance up. And the opposite with this is like you're getting hit with Spider-Man 2099, but you're building to something in a similar way. But Spider-Man 2099, while charging heavy attack, removes or resistance up stacks. If at least 20 stacks were removed this way, inflicts a wither debuff for the potency of 125% for 20 seconds. And yeah, like the difference is obviously with this one, it's a different. Technically, it's different mechanic, but the same principle is that you're building up to something. This is all about the unstable, and that unstable is going to be very important to kind of obviously exact more kind of damage. Now here's where the clever thing comes in, and that's the build. So how you're building is like you're building out, as we said, those resistance ups, which you can see like we're up to 15 on the screen right now, what's displayed in a deep dive. And you're building past that, throwing like an SP2 there, so you go unstable based on that particular motion. Now at that point is keeping those debuffs on and rotating around heavy attacks, heavy attack, heavy attack, heavy attack, until your resistances have gone. And yeah, you can rinse and repeat on that particular method, but that heavy proficiency is that thing that kind of like gets that damage ramp up. The rotations seem very simple and very easy to action, which is, you know, great about a champion. One thing that I forgot to notice is that you do get an indestructible as part of this kit. So it means that when you're doing those rotations of those heavies as part of the root, heavy proficiencies, more damage, heavy rotation, debuffs after getting those resistance and going to unstable, that indestructible passive you get is a get out of jail free card for doing that rotation. So you don't have any kind of like, it's like maximum risk but no foul that you kind of get as a result. It is literally, it's brilliant to have that mechanic. So if Sandman is struck by a basic attack while he charges a heavy attack, he ignores the hit by becoming passively indestructible. Nice. Striking the opponent with the first hit of his heavy attack, passively root them for 2.25 seconds. If the opponent has stand your ground mastery active, it is removed while rooted. So that's annoying for people that have that mastery, but you know, at the end of the day, this champion is to bypass certain stuff. Striking a rooted opponent with a heavy attack locks Sandman in place until the root expires, or until he dodges back. So this is all about, again, aggressive behavior, aggressive rotation, and it's fun. It's definitely how I like to play. While unstable, the first hit of Sandman's heavy attack roots the opponent for just long enough to loop into another heavy attack. This is the easiest and most efficient way to score knockdowns and get as much damage as possible. And we saw that with lots of debuffs that were on the enemy at the same time, which is great. On the plus side, rotations are going to be really important as to what you look to suppress. If you're looking to suppress stuff like regeneration and having something that's got also, suppression, obviously in general for power lock, but what I'm talking about is the suppression of health based on the petrify debuff, which you can see on screen right now. Like, this is just really important to have these extra little bits of utility for rotation and keeping up the pressure. Even better when you're getting yourself into that unstable, and you can look to kind of take down champions. I'm talking like Realm of Legends, kind of Wolverine. But look, you know, regeneration in general. But a very aggressive regeneration is going to be something that this champion will be kind of like excelling at. So, you know, it's great news. And that SP1 is going to be that key thing. So down below at the moment, you're going to see this kind of build up. First of all, the first thing is like draining the power of the champion. So they're going to like throw their special attack, and it's going to be, you know, there you come back in, you're throwing an SP1, petrify build, suppression build, power, kind of like suppression right there. The resistance is up, the unstable mode has gone in, it's the rotations on the heavy attack, it's the aggression, the damage that's being actioned. Massive thumbs up. Love this. And a similar vein with the SP2. You know, that's when Sandman gains resistance up. Then on activation, inflict a decelerate debuff. And what's that? Decelerate debuffs of 7% potency. Then each hit inflicts 2 additional decelerate debuffs, which is countering the opponent's unstoppable or evade abilities if every hit connects. So that basically is like saying, well, it's like the slow debuff, isn't it? But it's kind of like instead a different way of approaching it. ends up with 210% accuracy, reduction of their unstoppable and evade effects. It also is also even more potent than the SP1 for building up resistance up, inflicting debuffs on the opponent. Cool. And then there is another way of kind of looking at this from a champion's rotation perspective. So the SP1 rotation is one way of looking at this, and SP2, you know, at your own kind of leisure if you want to do it. But the SP3 side of things, if we drop down here, inflicts 30 physical vulnerability debuffs for 21.21 potency, gain 20 resistance ups while unstable. Instead of gaining resistance ups, Sandman inflicts an additional 20 physical vulnerability debuff. So what we're talking about, like 30 plus 20, 50 in total with all of this. And as Kaban was saying right here, is that SP3 is a shortcut to becoming unstable, increasing Sandman's damage potency, notably all of those vulnerability debuffs. Try to throw the SP3 already in unstable state to get additional 20 debuffs and increase your burst damage even more. Which, here's an example on screen right now. This being actioned off. There's right there, the 50 you can see. So that's good. There's 50 for that. And then from a damage perspective, that's going to be again another thing that we just have to kind of like showcase that extent of damage. So there, like the pings of it going off, 21k there. I think I took a screenshot of it being like 30k. There's 28k again. So you're getting like a good amount of damage rotation. SP3 method versus SP1 method. I guess it just does depend on what the scenario is. If you're going, hey, I'm going up against a champion that's got regeneration as part of their kit, then an SP1 rotation may be the way to go with, if they're building power, something when it comes to the suppression to stop that power kind of building. Or the SP2 method, we're dealing with champions that have unstoppable or evade based ability. So again, it's like as we say, a pick a mix of, depending on what scenario, utility from this champion to deal with it, but still keeping that high damage rotation of that build resistance, SP1, unstable, well, you know, you choose the rotation, and then it's like heavy attack rotation with a heavy proficiency to do as much damage as possible. But something I don't know if you saw in that little kind of like motion pause that I just had of the deep dive was there was a Fury passive. Now there is something that is offered as part of the Mantis synergy, but as a signature ability, you can maximize more damage. I'm not going to say like, I can't wholeheartedly say like you need to awaken Sandman, but here's the thing: this looks more potent for the the champion if you're looking at the signature ability being this, which is, if I just get my red circle of doom, which is right here, the Rude Sandman. While unstable, Sandman gains an indefinite fury passive granting 2,482 attack rating. That would maximize a lot more damage. Sandman's heavy proficiency passives grant additional attack rating. So we're talking some great damage here. If we are indeed building the champion up, we're doing those methods that we said about the rotation, and then adding in just like a lot more damage from that signature ability. I would personally be about getting that awakening on this champion, because it doesn't action any kind of extra utility. The utility is within the champion. The petrify, the suppression of the power, the deceleration, and that dealing obviously what it deals with evade, whatever. So that would be where you need to kind of go with it. And as I said, there is a synergy with Mantis, which is Special Attack 3, which still is a rotation, which is right there, which is a rotation you might want to do, that gain a Fury passive granting 30% attack rating over 10 seconds. So if you had Mantis on your team, signature ability Awaken, 200 signature, you're going to be looking at some stonking amount of damage. And I think what we'll do is we'll just leave this here. I'm really excited for Sandman, and I think more excited because it does look, it does look like it's a very good champion. And I really want to get it. I'm just annoyed that it's not in the next 6-star featured. I believe we have to wait until the next one, which is going to be a little bit annoying. So yeah, I'm not going to like go for this in arena because I just don't have the roster to kind of do that, and I don't have the time. So I'm just gonna have to wait a lot longer, and I'll just have to get to play the champion on the CCP beta. But yeah, this champion looks really good, really good. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts on it, but it just looks like a really decent champion. Decent rotations. Love the kind of love the signature ability. Love the just rotations of the champion. It's a brawler at heart, and it does a lot of damage. So yeah, really happy with this. What's your thoughts? Put it in the comment section down below. Check out another video on screen right now, and we'll do a shocker one in a moment. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.